The scent hit him like a blade to the chest. Cale froze mid-stride, one boot sinking into the mud of the rogue camp. Around him, his soldiers moved in efficient silence, dragging prisoners from tents, binding wrists, cataloging stolen weapons. Dawn bled gray through the trees. Everything proceeded exactly as planned. But that scent. His wolf surged forward, clawing at his ribs. Impossible. She was dead, 3 years dead. He'd buried an empty casket because there'd been nothing left to bury after the ambush. He'd burned the forest where she fell. He'd executed every wolf who'd failed to protect her. The scent thickened. Honey and wild sage. Unmistakable. Cale's hand shot up, halting his beta mid-command. "Stop." Rowan turned, eyes narrowed. "My king? Clear the east perimeter." His voice came out rough. Too rough. Now. He didn't wait for acknowledgement. His wolf drove him forward, pulling him past huddled captives and smoking fire pits. The scent trail wound through trampled grass, around a supply wagon, toward the tree line, where 3 figures sprinted for cover. His guards had already moved to intercept. "Stand down," Cale snarled, the command laced with alpha authority that dropped 2 of his men to their knees. The runners kept going. 2 men in worn leather, one smaller figure between them, hood pulled low, moving with a limp that tugged something painful in his chest. He could end this in seconds. 1 shift. 1 leap. Instead, he followed on foot, boots eating ground, closing the distance with human restraint that cost him everything. Because if he shifted now, if his wolf took over and he was wrong. The smaller figure stumbled. Her companions caught her arms, tried to haul her upright. She shook them off with a sharp gesture Cale recognized down to his bones. That particular tilt of her head when she refused help. That stubborn set to her shoulders. "Run," she told them, voice low and fierce. "I'll hold him." The men hesitated. "Go." They ran. She turned to face him. Cale stopped 10 feet away, close enough to see the hood shadow her face, close enough to confirm what his wolf already knew. "Take it off," he said quietly. Her hands lifted slowly to the hood's edge. She pushed it back. 3 years hadn't been kind. A scar traced her left cheekbone, pale against sun-darkened skin. Her dark hair hung in a rough braid instead of the elaborate twists she'd once worn. She'd lost weight, gained muscle. Her eyes held something he'd never seen there before. Not fear, defiance. Mira. Her name felt like glass in his throat. He'd said it 1,000 times in the dark, whispered it to empty rooms, screamed it at the sky. Now it sat between them like a confession. She didn't respond, didn't use his name, just watched him with those steady, unreadable eyes. "You're alive." Stupid thing to say. Obvious. But his mind couldn't catch up to what his senses insisted was real. All this time, you were alive. "Disappointed?" Her voice carried, an edge he'd never heard before. "I know you gave me a lovely funeral." The words hit like a physical blow. Behind him, boots crunched in the underbrush, his guards closing in, weapons ready. Rowan's presence a solid wall at his back. "My king?" Rowan's tone held a question. "An offer." Cale raised one hand, palm out, the universal signal to hold position. His eyes never left Mira's face. "You let me believe you were dead." The accusation came out raw. 3 years, you let me... grieve? She tilted her head, and for a moment he saw a flash of the woman he'd known. The one who'd challenged him in council. Who'd laughed at his attempts at poetry. Who'd fit against his chest like she was made for that exact space. "Is that what you call what you've done? Because I've heard other words for it." "What are you talking about?" "Your reign of terror, Alpha King." She loaded his title with something close to contempt. "The executions. The purges. The iron fist you've used to crush anyone who questions your rule." He flinched. She wasn't wrong. After her death, after he'd lost her, something in him had broken. Or maybe it had sharpened. He'd become the king the realm needed. Hard, unforgiving, effective. "I did what was necessary. You became what they wanted you to be." She took a step back, and his wolf howled in protest. "I'm glad I didn't live to see it." "Then why are you here?" The question came out sharper than he intended. Why hide among rogues? Why not come home? Something flickered across her face. Not quite pain, not quite anger. "Because I was never meant to make it home." She held his gaze, steady and sure. "And you were always going to choose the crown." Before he could respond, she turned and ran. His wolf surged. His soldiers moved. And Kale realized with absolute certainty that whatever came next would change everything. Again, the forest blurred as Kale's guards gave chase, but he stood frozen at the edge of the clearing. His mind wasn't in the present anymore. It dragged him back 3 years. Back to the night his world ended. They'd been returning from the northern border negotiations. A diplomatic mission that should have been routine. Boring, even. Mira had complained about the endless treaty discussions, made him laugh by mimicking the stuffy northern elders. He could still hear her voice in the carriage, still see the way moonlight caught in her dark hair. Then the ambush. Rogues had hit the convoy hard and fast. Professional. Coordinated in a way that should have raised questions he'd been too grief-stricken to ask. His personal guard had surrounded him immediately. Protocol. The king's life above all others. He'd fought against them, screamed her name. His wolf had torn free of his control, desperate to reach her. By the time he'd broken through, the carriage was in flames. Her scent had been everywhere, blood and smoke and burning wood. His wolf had howled, a sound of such pure anguish that even his hardened soldiers had stepped back. They'd found her cloak in the wreckage, shredded, soaked in blood, no body. His advisors had insisted that meant nothing. The fire had been intense. The rogues had likely taken pieces, trophies. He'd vomited at that suggestion. Rowan had been the one to pull him away, to force him back to the capital, to remind him that a kingdom couldn't function without its king. The funeral had been a grand affair, empty casket draped in silk. Thousands of mourners who'd never known her. Political allies offering condolences that meant nothing. He'd stood through all of it like a statue. Afterward, alone in their chambers, he'd finally broken. The bond hadn't severed. That's what had nearly destroyed him. Mate bonds died with their other half. Everyone knew that. The pain was supposed to be clean, final. His had just faded, dimmed to almost nothing. A phantom ache he'd attributed to denial, to hope that wouldn't die. His council had used his grief. He could see that now. Could see how they'd shaped his pain into policy. "The rogues took your mate," they'd whispered. "They must pay." And he'd made them pay. Gods, how he'd made them pay. Every rogue pack within 100 miles. Hunted, scattered. Those who surrendered were tried for treason. Those who ran were cut down. He'd told himself it was justice. His people had called him strong, decisive. A king who wouldn't tolerate threats to the crown. Only Rowan had ever looked at him with something like pity. The memories released him suddenly, dumped him back into the present where his guards were crashing through the underbrush and his mate, his living, breathing, furious mate, was running from him. "Hold position." His voice came out as alpha command. Absolute, undeniable. His soldiers froze mid-stride. Rowan moved to his side, careful, like approaching a wounded animal. "Kale, she's alive." He said it out loud, tested the words. They didn't feel real. "I can see that." Rowan's tone was cautious. "But she's also with the rogues, the ones we came here to eliminate." She said, Kale's throat closed. She said she was never meant to make it home. Rowan went very still. What does that mean? Kale turned to face his oldest friend. His beta. The one person who'd stood beside him through everything. "I don't know," the admission cost him. "But I'm gonna find out." "The men have orders." Rowan kept his voice low. "We're supposed to clear this camp. No survivors." "Change the orders." "To what?" Kale looked back toward the trees where Mara had disappeared. His wolf strained against his control. Every instinct screamed at him to give chase. To run her down. To never let her out of his sight again. But she'd run from him. Not from danger. From him. Capture only. He forced the words out. Anyone who resists, subdue them. I want prisoners, all of them. Cale, that's not? Rowan stopped, started again. That's not what we do, not with rogues. It's what we're doing today. He met Rowan's eyes, held them. Find her. Bring her to me carefully. If any of my guards lay a rough hand on her, I'll take their hand. Rowan's expression shifted. Understanding dawned, followed quickly by concern. She's really her, your mate. Yes. But she chose them. Rowan gestured toward the camp. She's been living as a rogue. That makes her mine. Cale's wolf pushed into his voice, made it rough, dangerous. She's mine. She's always been mine. And I will have answers. Rowan held his gaze a moment longer, then nodded once. I'll bring her in, but Cale, the council isn't going to like this. The council can bring me their complaints in person. Cale started toward the camp. After I deal with my mate. Behind him, Rowan began issuing new orders. The sound of pursuit shifted, became more controlled, strategic. Cale's wolf settled slightly, satisfied that the hunt would end in capture, not bloodshed, but his human side. His human side was remembering the look in Mira's eyes, the contempt when she'd called him Alpha King, the certainty when she'd said she was never meant to make it home. Someone had tried to kill his mate, and he was beginning to suspect he knew exactly who. They brought her in at midday. Cale stood in the center of what had been the rogue camp's main gathering space. His guards had cleared it, turned it into a makeshift command post. He'd been standing there for 2 hours, waiting. His wolf paced restlessly beneath his skin. Every minute that passed without her felt like claws raking down his spine. Then he heard the commotion at the perimeter. Get your hands off me, her voice. Cale's entire body went rigid. Ma'am, if you'd just... I said get off. The sound of a scuffle. A guard's pained grunt. Cale turned as they dragged her into the clearing. 3 guards. It took 3 of them to bring her in. She fought every step. Her wrists were bound, but she twisted like a wildcat. One guard had a bleeding nose. Another limped. Cale's wolf surged forward. His mate was in distress. Then his human side caught up, reminded him she was the one causing the distress. Pride flickered through him before he could stop it. Carefully. His voice cracked like a whip. I said carefully. The guards released her immediately. Stepped back. Mira stumbled but caught herself. Straightened. Met his eyes with pure defiance. Cale felt the impact like a physical blow. She was here. Real. Close enough to touch. The bond thrummed between them. Alive. Undeniable. His wolf whined. Wanted to go to her. Wanted to press close and confirm she was whole and safe and theirs. But she looked at him like he was the enemy. Leave us. He didn't take his eyes off her. Alpha, protocol requires... One of the guards started. Out. Cale let his wolf bleed into his voice. Now! They went. The silence that followed felt like standing on a knife's edge. Mira watched him with those storm-gray eyes. There was a fresh cut on her cheekbone. Bruises forming on her wrists where the ropes had bitten. Cale's hands clenched at his sides. Who hurt you? She laughed. The sound was bitter. Which time? The guards. He forced the words out evenly. Which one grabbed you too hard? Does it matter? She tilted her head. They're following orders. Your orders. I gave explicit instructions that you weren't to be harmed. Oh, well then. Her smile was razor sharp. I guess these... She held up her bound wrists. Don't count. Cale moved before he could think. Crossed the space between them in 3 strides. Mira tensed. Started to step back. He caught her hands. Carefully. His fingers found the knots. Don't. Her voice cracked. Don't touch me. He froze. Their faces were inches apart. He could feel her breath, could smell the wild sweetness of her scent underneath the smoke and fear. His wolf keened. I'm removing the ropes. He kept his voice low, controlled. They're too tight. They're hurting you. Everything hurts. but she didn't pull away. He worked the knots loose. His hands were shaking. He hoped she didn't notice. The rope fell away. Mira stepped back immediately, rubbed her wrists. Cale let her go. It cost him everything. "You look different." The words escaped before he could stop them. 3 years will do that. "You have scars." "So do you." Her eyes tracked across his face. His throat. "More than before." They stood in silence. Cale tried to find words. Any words. There was so much he needed to know. So much he needed to say. "Why?" His voice came out rough. "Why didn't you come home?" "Home?" She repeated the word like it was foreign. "Is that what you think the palace was?" "It was supposed to be. A lot of things were supposed to be." "Mira." He took a breath. Tried again. "I thought you were dead." "I know. I mourned you." "I know that too." "Then why?" Anger bled into his voice. He couldn't help it. "Why let me believe it? Why stay hidden?" "Because I wasn't supposed to survive." She met his eyes, held them. "The ambush wasn't random, Cale. It was planned. Organized. Someone wanted me dead." His wolf snarled. "That's not possible." "Isn't it?" She moved closer. There was challenge in every line of her body. "Your perfect court. Your loyal council. You really think they'd welcome a mate from nowhere? A girl with no pack? No bloodline? They would have accepted you." But even as he said it, doubt crept in. "I heard them." Her voice dropped. 3 nights before the journey. I couldn't sleep. I went walking. Found your council in the strategy room." Cale's blood ran cold. "They were discussing me." Mira's hands trembled. "Discussing how my bond to you made you weak. How I was a liability. How convenient it would be if something happened during the border inspection." "No." The word came out harsh. "My council wouldn't." "Lord Theron said I was a pretty distraction." She talked over him. "That you'd grieve. But you'd recover. And then they could find you a proper queen." Theron, Cale's oldest advisor. His father's closest friend. "You're lying." "Am I?" Mira's eyes blazed. "Then explain why the ambush happened exactly where they said it would. Explain why the guards who were supposed to protect me scattered the moment the rogues attacked. They died defending you. They died running away. I watched them go." Cale couldn't breathe. "So I ran too." Her voice gentled slightly. "I ran, and I kept running. Because going back meant trusting you'd protect me. And I wasn't sure you would." "I would've." The words tore out of him. "Mira, I would've." "Would you?" She searched his face. "Would you really have believed me over them? Your counsel. Your father's legacy. Your perfect rule." He wanted to say yes. The word wouldn't come. And in the silence, her expression shuddered, closed off. "That's what I thought." The tent felt too small. Or maybe it was just the weight of her words pressing in from every side. Cale forced himself to breathe, to think past the roar of his wolf. "Names." His voice came out clipped, controlled. "Give me names." Mira didn't flinch. "You already know one." "Theron?" He spat the name like poison. "Who else?" "Does it matter?" She crossed her arms. "You won't believe me anyway. Try me. Lady Saren, Lord Voss, Commander Dane." Each name landed like a blow. His inner circle, the people he'd trusted with everything. Dane led the border patrol. Cale's hands curled into fists. He brought me your cloak, covered in blood." "My blood." Mira's voice stayed flat. "I was injured, barely made it out, but not dead enough for their plan. So you just vanished." "I survived." She met his eyes. That's what you do when the people who are supposed to protect you want you gone. Cale moved before he could stop himself, closed the distance between them in 2 strides. She tensed, hand dropping to the blade at her hip. The gesture cut deeper than any weapon could. I'm not going to hurt you. He stopped, just out of reach. Mira, I swear to you, I didn't know. You didn't want to know. Her fingers stayed on the knife. That's different. What does that mean? It means you were so focused on being the perfect king. Her voice cracked. You never saw what was happening right in front of you. That's not fair. Fair? She laughed. The sound was bitter. You want to talk about fair? I was 19, barely trained, thrown into a court that smiled to my face and plotted behind my back. And you? I what? You were always somewhere else? Some meeting, some crisis, some duty. She breathed out slowly. I needed you, and you chose them. The truth of it settled in his chest like lead. I thought... He struggled for words. I thought I was building us a future, making sure the pack would accept you, that they'd see you as I did. I didn't need them to see me. Mira's eyes glistened. I needed you to choose me, just once. I did choose you. But even as he said it, doubt crept in. How many times had he canceled dinners for council meetings? Postponed trips because Theron insisted? Let her eat alone while he handled pack business? You chose your crown, she corrected quietly. I was just supposed to fit around it. That's not... Isn't it? She took a step back. Be honest, Cale. If I'd come to you that night, told you what I heard, would you have believed me? Or would you have told me I misunderstood? That Theron was loyal? That I needed to try harder to fit in? He wanted to deny it, wanted to swear he would have torn the council apart for her. But she was right. He would have doubted, would have tried to smooth it over, would have chosen the path that kept everyone happy. Everyone except her. The admission stuck in his throat. I don't know. Something in her face shifted. Not forgiveness, but maybe understanding. At least you're honest now. She sat on the edge of the cot, suddenly looked exhausted. 3 years too late, but honest. Cale sank down across from her, kept his distance this time. Tell me about the ambush. His voice came out rough. Everything. Why? So you can decide if I'm telling the truth? So I can decide who dies first. The cold fury in his tone made her look up. They hurt you. He met her eyes, held them. They took you from me, whoever was involved. I will find them, and I will make them pay. Even if it means tearing apart your council? Especially then. Mira studied him for a long moment, looking for the lie. She wouldn't find one. We were 2 days from the border. She began slowly. The path ran through Thornwood Pass, narrow trail. Dense cover. Dane said it was the fastest route. It's also the most dangerous. Cale's jaw tightened. We never use it for official travel. I know that now. Her hand moved to her shoulder, to the scar he'd seen earlier. The rogues hit us at the bottleneck. 20, maybe 30 of them. Organized, precise. They went straight for the center of the column. Straight for me. His wolf snarled. Wanted blood. The guards scattered. Her voice dropped. I screamed for them. For anyone. But they just ran like they'd been ordered to. And D9? He stayed long enough to make sure I was bleeding. Her eyes went distant. Then he took my cloak. Told the others to fall back, said I was lost. But you weren't. A rogue grabbed me. She breathed out slowly. Older woman. She could have killed me. Should have. But she saw my wounds. saw how young I was, and she hesitated. So she took you. She saved me, Mira corrected firmly. Patched me up, hid me, and when I was strong enough, she gave me a choice. Go back to the world that wanted me dead, or disappear. And you chose to disappear. I chose to survive. Her eyes blazed. Don't you dare judge me for that. Cale shook his head slowly. I'm not judging you. Then what? I'm trying to figure out, he dragged a hand through his hair, how to make this right. You can't. Watch me. The guards returned at dawn. Mira heard their footsteps first, heavy boots on packed earth. Deliberate. She was already awake. She hadn't slept. The door opened without ceremony. 2 guards flanked the entrance. Neither looked at her directly. Alpha wants you moved, the taller one said. His tone was flat. Professional. Like she was cargo. Mira stood slowly. Every muscle ached from 3 years of running. And 1 night of remembering. They didn't bind her hands this time. Small mercy. She followed them through the camp as morning light broke over the ridge. Soldiers were already moving, breaking down tents, loading supplies. The efficiency was brutal, beautiful in its precision. This was Cale's army, the machine that had hunted her people for years. And she'd almost forgotten. She used to be part of this world. The guards led her to a smaller tent, set apart from the others. A single entrance, 2 posted sentries. Inside, the tall guard said, don't try anything stupid. Mira stepped through the flap. The tent was sparse. A bedroll, a small table, a basin of clean water, and bars of light cutting through canvas walls that reminded her she was still a prisoner. She sank onto the bedroll, closed her eyes, and let herself remember. The first winter had been the hardest. Mira had barely known how to start a fire without servants, had never hunted, never skinned game, never slept on frozen ground with only a stolen cloak between her and the earth. Lyra, the woman who'd pulled her from that ambush, had been patient. You're not Palace anymore, she'd said one night, smoke curling between them. Out here, you're just another lost soul trying to stay warm. It should have hurt. It didn't, because for the first time in months, Mira had felt something other than fear. She'd felt free. The rogue camp had been small then, maybe 15 people. All of them running from something. A cruel alpha. A broken bond. A kingdom that had discarded them the moment they became inconvenient. They didn't ask her story. She didn't offer it. But slowly, through shared meals and silent nights and the hard work of survival, they became something she'd never expected. Family. Real family. Not the cold politics of court. Not the careful smiles and poisoned words. Just people who showed up. Who shared what little they had. Who didn't care that her hands had once worn silk gloves instead of calluses. Lyra taught her to hunt. Finn, a young wolf barely older than Mira, taught her to track. And Sarah, fierce and scarred and afraid of nothing, taught her how to fight back. You died once, Sarah had said, pressing a blade into Mira's hand. Don't let it happen twice. So Mira had learned. She'd learned to move through shadows, to read the wind, to disappear when danger came too close. She'd learned to survive without a bond that had once felt like breathing, and she'd learned, painfully, to stop listening for Cale's voice in her dreams. Because he wasn't coming. He'd never been coming. Mira opened her eyes. The tent was warmer now. Mid-morning sun heating the canvas. She could hear voices outside. Soldiers laughing. Someone shouting orders. Normal sounds. But nothing about this was normal. Cale had looked at her last night like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. Like he hadn't spent 3 years building an empire on her grave. She wanted to hate him for it. Wanted to hold on to the anger that had kept her moving all this time. But his voice kept echoing in her head. I thought you were dead. I would have burned the kingdom down to find you. Lies. They had to be lies. Because the alternative, that he'd truly grieved, that he'd truly searched, meant she'd been wrong. And she couldn't afford to be wrong. Not about this. The tent flap opened. Mira's head snapped up. But it wasn't Kale. It was a woman. Older. Steady eyes. Healer's bag in hand. "I'm Thea," she said quietly. "The Alpha asked me to check on you." "I'm fine." "That's what everyone says." Thea stepped inside. Let the flap fall closed. "Humor me." Mira didn't move. Thea set her bag down, pulled out a small vial. "This is for pain. And this," she held up a wrapped bundle, "is bread, still warm. You should eat." "Why are you being kind to me?" Thea smiled, sad and knowing. "Because I knew you before." Mira's breath caught. "You don't remember me." Thea sat on the edge of the table. "I was just one of the palace healers. But I was there, the day you were presented to the pack. You smiled at everyone, even the servants." "That was a long time ago." "It was." Thea's voice softened. "And I saw what it did to him when they brought back your cloak. Your blood. He didn't speak for 2 days, just stood at the edge of the forest. Waiting. Stop. He wasn't the same after," Thea continued gently. "None of us were. The Alpha we have now. He's harder, colder. But he's never stopped looking." Mira turned away. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Maybe not." Thea stood, left the vial and the bread on the table. "But I know what I saw. And I know he's out there right now, tearing apart his own council to find out who betrayed you." The flap fell shut behind her. Mira stared at the bread. Her hands were shaking. Kale stood outside the tent where Mira slept. Or tried to sleep. He could hear her heartbeat through the canvas. Too fast. She wasn't resting. Neither was he. The sun had barely risen. His camp was waking. Soldiers moved between fires, packing gear, tending weapons. Normal routines. But nothing about this was normal. His mate was alive. His mate had run from him. His mate believed he'd wanted her dead. Kale's hands curled into fists. The bond hummed under his skin. 3 years of silence. And now it screamed. Every instinct told him to go to her, to break down every wall, to make her understand. But she'd looked at him last night like he was the enemy. Maybe he was. "Alpha." Kale turned. His beta stood a few feet away, arms crossed, expression carefully neutral. "Rowan? We need to talk." Kale's jaw tightened. "Not now." "Yes, now." Rowan stepped closer, kept his voice low. "The men are asking questions. You brought in a rogue, kept her separate, didn't execute her with the others. She's not a rogue." "Then what is she?" Kale met his gaze. Didn't answer. Rowan exhaled, slow and deliberate. "You can't keep her here indefinitely. The council's gonna hear about this. They'll want answers. Let them." "Kale." Rowan's voice dropped. "You're not thinking clearly." "I'm thinking perfectly clearly." "Are you?" Rowan's eyes narrowed. "Because from where I'm standing, you look like a man about to make a very dangerous mistake." Kale's wolf stirred, a low warning growl building in his chest. "Careful. I'm your beta. It's my job to be careful." Rowan didn't back down. "Who is she?" The words sat heavy on Kale's tongue. He could lie. Dismiss it. Order Rowan to drop it. But Rowan had stood beside him for 3 years, had watched him fall apart, had pulled him back together when the grief became too much. He deserved the truth. "My mate." Rowan went still. "What?" "Mira." Kale's voice cracked on her name. She was my mate." "That's not possible. I know how it sounds." "Kale." Rowan's expression shifted. Disbelief. Shock. "Mira's dead. We buried a lie." Kale's hands shook. She's alive. She's been alive this whole time. Rowan stared at him, processing. Then his face hardened. And she was hiding with rogues. She was running. From what? From me. The admission burned. From the council. Someone tried to kill her. She heard them planning it. So she ran. Rowan's jaw clenched. Who? I don't know yet. Cale's wolf snarled under his skin. But I'm going to find out. And then what? Rowan stepped closer. You execute a council member? You destabilize the entire pack because a rogue tells you a story? She's not a rogue. She's been living with them for 3 years. Rowan's voice turned hard. She's one of them now. You can't just... She's my mate. She left you. The words hit like a blade. Cale's chest tightened. His wolf surged. Protective. Furious. But Rowan didn't flinch. I'm not saying this to hurt you. His voice softened. Just slightly. I'm saying it because you need to hear it. She didn't come back. She didn't send word. She chose to stay gone. Because she thought I wanted her dead. Did you? Cale's fist slammed into the nearest tree. Bark splintered. Blood welled across his knuckles. Rowan didn't move. I searched for her. Cale's voice shook. Every day, every lead, I tore apart this kingdom looking for her body. For answers. For anything. I know. And she was alive. The bond twisted, sharp and aching. She was alive, and she thought I was the threat. Rowan was quiet for a long moment. Then he sighed. What do you want to do? Keep her safe. She's a traitor by law. She sided with rogues. The council will demand her execution. They can try. Cale, I won't let them touch her. Cale's eyes burned gold. His wolf rising. I don't care what it costs. It'll cost you everything. Rowan's voice turned grim. Your authority, your alliances, maybe even your throne. Then I'll pay it. And what about her? Rowan's gaze flicked toward the tent. Does she even want this? Want you? Cale's throat tightened. He didn't have an answer. You need to be smart about this. Rowan stepped closer, lowered his voice. If you're going to protect her, you can't let the council know who she is. Not yet. Not until we know who betrayed her. She's my mate. I'm not hiding that. You'll have to, for now. Rowan's expression was serious, because if they find out she's alive, whoever tried to kill her the first time will try again. Cale's blood ran cold. Rowan was right. Mira was alive. But she wasn't safe. Not here. Not anywhere. Not until he found the traitor. Keep her existence quiet, Rowan said. Tell the men she's a prisoner. Under your personal watch. That buys us time. And then? Then you find out who wanted her dead. Rowan's voice hardened. And you bury them. Cale nodded slowly. His wolf settled. Just slightly. A plan. A path forward. But it meant keeping Mira at arm's length. It meant letting her think. For just a little longer. That he didn't care. His chest ached at the thought. But if it kept her alive, he'd endure it. The attack came at dusk. Mira was in the guarded tent when the first howl split the air. Her head snapped up. She knew that sound. Rogue wolves. Her family. Shouts erupted outside. Steel rang against steel. The canvas walls shuddered as bodies slammed past. She was on her feet in an instant, heart pounding. They'd come for her. The tent flap tore open. A guard stumbled in, eyes wide. Stay back! But Mira didn't listen. She shoved past him into chaos. The camp was burning. Rogues poured through the eastern perimeter. Familiar faces. Wolves she'd hunted with, shared meals with. They fought with desperation, with nothing left to lose. And they were losing. Kale's soldiers were too many, too disciplined. The rogues didn't stand a chance. "Fall back!" someone screamed. But they wouldn't. Not without her. Mira's chest tightened. They were going to die for her. "Stop!" She ran forward, voice raw. "Stop fighting! I'm here!" A rogue wolf turned. Scarred muzzle, one ear torn. Gareth, his amber eyes locked on hers, relief flooding his features. Then something shifted. His gaze snapped past her. A warning snarl ripped from his throat. Mira spun. A blade glinted in the firelight. One of the soldiers, not Kale's. The uniform was wrong. The emblem different. Council Guard. And he was coming straight for her. Time slowed. She saw the intent in his eyes, the cold calculation. This wasn't about capturing a rogue. This was assassination. Her body froze. Too slow, too late. But then something massive and golden slammed between them. Kale. In full shift. His wolf was enormous, silver-tipped fur and burning gold eyes. He took the blade meant for her chest straight through his shoulder. Blood sprayed hot across Mira's face. Kale didn't even flinch. His jaws closed around the soldier's throat. One twist. The man dropped. Silence crashed over the camp. Every wolf, rogue and royal alike, stilled. Kale's wolf stood over the body, blood dripping from his muzzle. His shoulder wound gaped, dark and deep. But his eyes never left Mira. She couldn't breathe. He'd taken a blade for her. Not hesitated. Not calculated. Just moved. Rowan's voice cut through the quiet. "Stand down! All of you!" The soldiers lowered their weapons. Slowly. Uncertain, the rogues didn't move. Waiting for her signal. Mira's throat burned. "Go!" Her voice cracked. "Please! Just go!" Gareth's wolf shook his head. A low whine escaped him. "I'm not worth this." Tears stung her eyes. "Go, before more of you die." Gareth held her gaze for one agonizing moment. Then he turned. The other rogues followed, melting back into the forest like smoke. Mira's knees buckled. Kale shifted in a ripple of light and pain. Human again, naked, bleeding. He caught her before she hit the ground. "You're hurt," she whispered. "I'm fine. You're bleeding. I've had worse." His voice was rough, strained. She looked up at him, really looked. His face was pale, tight with pain. The wound in his shoulder was brutal, bone deep. That blade was poisoned. Rowan appeared beside them, face grim, silver-laced. Whoever sent that soldier wanted her dead. Kale's jaw clenched. "Get a healer. You need one more." "I'm fine." "You're not." Mira's hands shook as she pressed them against his wound. Blood soaked through her fingers, hot and slick. "You're not fine." His eyes softened. "Just slightly. I'll heal. Not if you don't let someone help you." "Mira, don't." Her voice broke. "Don't pretend this doesn't matter." He stared at her, something raw flickering behind his eyes. Then he nodded. Rowan barked orders. Soldiers moved. The camp slowly pulled itself together. But Kale didn't let go of her, and she didn't pull away. They brought him to the largest tent. Mira followed without asking permission. No one stopped her. The healer worked quickly, stitching the wound with practiced efficiency. Kale didn't make a sound, didn't flinch. But Mira saw the tension in his shoulders, the white of his knuckles as he gripped the edge of the cot. When the healer finally left, silence settled heavy between them. Mira sat on the stool beside him, her hands still stained with his blood. "Why?" The words scraped out of her. Kale's gaze lifted, met hers. "You know why. You barely know me anymore. I know enough. You think I'm a traitor. I think you're my mate." His voice was steady, certain. "And I will not let you die. Not again." Her chest ached. "That soldier wasn't one of yours." "No." "Council guard. Yes. Someone on the council wants me dead." Kale's expression turned cold, deadly. They won't get the chance. You can't protect me from your own people. Watch me. Mira's throat tightened. She looked down at her blood-stained hands. You took a blade for me. I'd take 1,000. Why? Because you're mine. His hand reached out, slow, deliberate. His fingers brushed her jaw. You've always been mine. She should pull away. Should remind him of all the reasons this couldn't work. But she didn't move. His thumb traced her cheekbone. Gentle, reverent. I thought you were dead, he whispered. For 3 years. I thought I'd lost you. You did lose me, her voice cracked. I'm not the girl you knew. I don't want her. His eyes burned into hers. I want you, whoever you are now. Tears spilled hot down her cheeks, and for the first time in 3 years, she let herself believe him. The tent smelled of blood and smoke. Mira dipped the rag into the basin, wrung it out. The water turned pink. She wouldn't look at him. Couldn't. Every time she did, she saw him throw himself between her and that blade, saw the silver cut deep, saw him bleed. You're shaking. His voice was rough, low. I'm fine. Liar. Her jaw clenched. She pressed the cloth against the edge of his wound, checking the healer's work. The stitches were clean, tight, but silver poisoning took time to clear, even for an alpha. You should rest, she said. So should you. I'm not the one who got stabbed. No. His hand caught her wrist, gentle but firm. You're the one they tried to kill. Her breath hitched. His thumb traced slow circles against her pulse point. She felt the warmth of him, the steady strength. It terrified her. Kale. Let me say this. His eyes held hers, dark and burning. Please. She nodded. He exhaled slow, like he'd been holding that breath for years. I didn't know, he said, about the council, about their plan. I know. His brows lifted, surprise flickering across his face. You do? I'm starting to. Her voice shook. You wouldn't have, not if you'd known. Never. The word came fierce. Absolute. I would have burned the kingdom down before I let them touch you. She believed him. That was the problem. They're still there, she whispered. On your council. In your court. Not for long. You can't just purge everyone who... I can. His voice turned cold, hard. And I will. Kale, you need allies. I need you. His hands slid up her arm. Slow, deliberate. The rest I can replace. Her chest ached. She set the rag down, pulled her hand free. You say that now. I'll say it always. You don't understand. She stood, paced to the tent flap, her back to him. I left because I had to, because staying meant dying. But out there, with them, her voice broke. I found something. What? Freedom. Silence, heavy and raw. When he spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. You were a prisoner here. It wasn't a question. Not a prisoner. She turned, met his gaze. But not free either. Every choice I made, every word I said, it all had weight. Consequence. I was the Alpha King's mate. I couldn't just be. Pain flickered across his face. I didn't realize. You were busy ruling. She wrapped her arms around herself. I don't blame you for that. You should. Maybe. A sad smile tugged at her lips. But I don't. He stood slowly, wincing as the movement pulled at his stitches. Kale, I'm fine. You're bleeding again. I don't care. He crossed to her in 3 strides. His hand cupped her face, tilting her chin up. "Tell me what you need." His voice was rough, raw. "Tell me, and I'll make it happen." Tears burned her eyes. "I need you to let me go." His expression shattered. "Mira." "Not forever." The words tumbled out, desperate, fast. "Just don't make me be what I was. Don't put me back in that cage." "I won't." His forehead pressed against hers, his breath warm on her lips. "I swear to you, I won't." "Your council will demand it. Then I'll get a new council." "Cale, I mean it." His hands framed her face. Steady. "Sure. I spent 3 years thinking you were dead. 3 years hating myself for not protecting you. For not seeing." His voice cracked. "I won't lose you again. Not to them, not to duty, not to anything." She wanted to believe him, wanted it so badly it hurt. "They'll call me traitor," she whispered. "They'll say I conspired with rogues." "Let them. They'll question your judgment. They already do." "This is different." Her hands pressed against his chest, felt the steady thrum of his heartbeat beneath her palms. "This is treason." "Then I'll commit treason." His eyes burned into hers, fierce, unyielding. "With you." Her breath caught. "You're serious, always. You'd give up your throne. If it meant keeping you?" His thumb traced her lower lip. Soft, reverent. "Yes." Tears spilled hot down her cheeks. He'd take a blade for her. He'd defy his counsel. He'd burn his kingdom down. For her. "I don't want you to give up your throne," she said quietly. I need to know I matter more than it." "You do." His voice was steady, certain. "You always have." She searched his face, looking for doubt, for hesitation, found none. "I was so angry with you," she whispered. "For so long. You had every right. I thought you'd chosen them over me." "Never." His forehead pressed harder against hers. "Not once. I believe you." His eyes closed, relief washing visible across his features. "Thank you." She let herself lean into him. Just slightly, just enough to feel the warmth of his body against hers. "We can't go back," she said softly. "Not to what we were. I know. Everything has to change. Then we'll change it." His arms wrapped careful around her, holding her like she might break. Together. She didn't pull away, didn't run. For the first time in 3 years, she let herself stay. The council arrived at dawn. Mira heard them before she saw them. Horses, armor, the clipped voices of men who believed power was their birthright. She stood at the edge of Cale's tent, hands wrapped tight around a mug of cooling tea, watched as 5 figures dismounted in perfect formation. They wore the council's colors, deep burgundy and gold. They looked like vultures. Cale stepped out beside her, his presence solid, grounding. "Stay inside," he said quietly. "No." His jaw tightened. "Mira." "They're here because of me." She met his eyes, steady. "I'm not hiding." He studied her face, something flickering in his gaze that looked almost like pride. "Then stay close," he said. The lead councilman approached. Silver-haired, cold-eyed. Mira recognized him from her years in the palace. Lord Torvin, the king's oldest advisor. The one who'd smiled at her during formal dinners while plotting her death behind closed doors. "Your Majesty." Torvin's bow was perfunctory, barely respectful. "We received your report regarding the rogue encampment." "Did you?" Cale's voice was flat, dangerous. We're pleased the threat has been neutralized. Torvin's gaze slid past Kale, landed on Mira. Though we understand there were complications. Mira forced herself not to flinch. No complications, Kale said. The rogues have been contained. Their leaders await trial. And the traitor? Another councilman stepped forward. Younger, hungry-looking. The one who lived among them? Kale's hand found Mira's lower back. A silent claim. She's under my protection. Silence fell heavy across the camp. Torvin's expression didn't change, but his eyes, they went cold, calculating. Your Majesty, he said carefully, perhaps we should speak privately. No need, Kale's voice carried across the clearing, loud enough for every soldier to hear. Anything you have to say, you can say in front of her. Torvin's mouth thinned. Very well. He stepped closer, lowered his voice just slightly. The woman beside you is a known associate of enemies of the crown. She has lived among rogues, trained with them, fought alongside them. She had no choice. That remains to be seen. Torvin's gaze flicked to Mira, dismissive. What we know is that she poses a threat to stability, to your rule, to the integrity of... She's my mate. The words rang out clear. Final. Mira's breath stopped. The councilmen stared, shock rippling visible across their faces. Your mate, Torvin repeated slowly. The one who died 3 years ago? The one who was supposed to die 3 years ago. Kale's voice turned to iron. By order of this council. Another beat of silence. Heavier this time. Dangerous. That's a serious accusation, Torvin said softly. It's the truth. Kale stepped forward, putting himself between Mira and the council. I have witness testimony. Documents. Proof that members of this council conspired to end her life. Lies. The younger councilman spat. Rogue lies meant to... Careful. Kale's eyes flashed gold, his wolf rising to the surface. Choose your next words very carefully. The man went pale. Torvin held up one hand, a placating gesture that looked more like a threat. Your Majesty, he said quietly. You're overwrought, emotional. This woman has clearly manipulated. This woman, Kale cut in, is the rightful queen of this kingdom, and you tried to murder her. Mira's heart hammered against her ribs. He was doing it. Actually doing it. Burning every bridge. Severing every alliance. For her. You're making a mistake, Torvin said. His voice dropped lower, more urgent. Think about what you're saying. The instability this will cause. Your people need strong leadership, not distraction. My people need honest leadership. Kale's hand moved to his sword. Deliberate. Not conspirators and traitors. Traitors? Torvin's laugh was sharp. Bitter. We acted to preserve your throne. That bond would have weakened you. Made you soft. Made you... human? Kale's voice was deadly quiet. Is that what you feared? That I might value one life over your political games? We feared you'd become compromised. You feared you'd lose control. Kale drew his sword, the sound of steel singing through the morning air. Guards! Soldiers moved forward instantly, surrounding the councilman. Torvin's face went white. You can't. I can. Kale's voice carried absolute authority. Lord Torvin, Councilman Derek, you're under arrest for conspiracy, for attempted murder, for treason against your queen. She's not queen, Torvin hissed. She's a rogue, a traitor. She's mine. Kale's eyes blazed, his wolf fully present now, barely leashed. And if you ever speak of her that way again, I'll forget I believe in trials. The guards closed in, binding the councilman's wrists with iron. Torvin stared at Kale. Hatred, burning naked in his gaze. "This will destroy you," he said softly. "Your kingdom will fracture. Your allies will abandon you. All for a woman who ran. All for the woman I love." Cale sheathed his sword. Final. "Take them." The guards dragged them away. Mira stood frozen, unable to move, unable to breathe. Cale had just arrested half his council. For her. He turned back to face her, his expression raw, uncertain. "I meant what I said," he told her quietly, every word. She couldn't speak, her throat too tight. "I know it's not enough," he continued. "I know you need more than declarations, more than—" She kissed him. Hard, desperate, her hands fisting in his shirt, as 3 years of fear and anger and longing crashed together all at once. He went still for one heartbeat. Then his arms wrapped around her, pulling her close, holding her like he'd never let go. When they finally broke apart, his forehead pressed against hers. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For choosing me." His thumb traced her jaw. Gentle, reverent. "Always," he said. The camp erupted in chaos. Soldiers shouted orders. Councilmen struggled against their bindings. The captured rogues pressed against the cage bars, eyes wide as they watched their alphamate claim her king in front of everyone. Mira pulled back slowly, her heart hammering. What had she just done? Cale's hands were still on her waist, steady, grounding. His eyes searched hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Mira," he started. She stepped back, breaking contact. His hands fell away instantly, respecting the distance. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice shaking. "I shouldn't have. I didn't mean to." "Don't apologize." His voice was rough. Never apologize for that. But fear was rising in her chest now, cold and suffocating. He'd arrested his councilman. For her. He'd declared her queen. In front of witnesses, he'd chosen her over political stability, over alliances, over everything that kept a kingdom standing. And she didn't know if she could be what he needed. "This is too much," she whispered. "Cale, this is too fast, too big. I can't." She saw the moment understanding hit him, saw his expression shift from hope to careful neutrality. "What are you saying?" he asked quietly. "I'm saying I'm not ready for this." The words came out broken, desperate. "I can't go back to the palace, can't wear a crown, can't be the perfect mate everyone expects. I tried that before and it almost killed me." "I'm not asking you to be perfect." "Yes, you are." She wrapped her arms around herself. "You just made me queen in front of your entire camp, your soldiers, your allies. Everyone will be watching now, judging, expecting me to be something I'm not." Cale took a careful step closer, his movements slow, non-threatening. "Then we'll change what a queen is," he said. "We'll build something new. Together." "You don't understand," her voice cracked. "I've been free for 3 years, living on my terms, making my own choices. I can't go back to being owned." "I don't want to own you." "But you will." The tears came now, hot and angry. Maybe not on purpose, but the bond, the throne, the expectations. "They'll swallow me again, and this time I won't survive it." Silence stretched between them. Around them, the camp was settling. Guards hauling the councilmen away, soldiers dispersing. But Mira felt like the ground was crumbling beneath her feet. "So what do you want?" Cale asked finally, his voice carefully controlled. "Tell me, please." "I don't know." She wiped her eyes roughly. I can't think right now. Everything's happening too fast and She looked at him. Really looked at him. Saw the hope in his eyes. The fear. The desperate love he was trying so hard to keep controlled. And it terrified her, because she felt it too. That pull. That belonging. And she didn't trust it anymore. "I need time," she said. "I need space to figure out what I want, who I am now." His jaw tightened, but he nodded. "How much time?" "I don't know." "And space? You mean away from me?" The question hit like a physical blow. "I don't know," she repeated. "Maybe, yes, I think, yes." She watched something break in his expression, watched him force it back under control with visible effort. "Okay," he said. "Okay? If that's what you need, then okay." He took a breath. "I won't force you to stay. Won't demand anything you're not ready to give. You're free, Mira. You always were." The words should have been a relief. Instead, they made her chest ache. "But," he continued quietly, "before you decide anything, will you let me do one thing?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Your people," Cale said. "The rogues. Let me offer them sanctuary." Mira went still. "What?" "Land, protection, full citizenship if they want it." His voice was steady now, certain. "They saved you, gave you family when I failed to. That means something. Let me honor that." "You'd give sanctuary to rogues?" Disbelief colored her voice. "After everything! I'd give them a kingdom if it meant you felt safe." He met her eyes. "I can't undo the past 3 years, can't erase what you went through, but I can try to build something better. For you, for them, for everyone who's been failed by this system." Her throat went tight again. "And if I still walk away?" she asked. "After you've done all that?" Pain flashed across his face, but his voice stayed steady. "Then at least I'll know I did everything I could," he said, "and that the people who protected you are protected in turn." Mira stared at him. He was offering her everything, asking for nothing in return, giving her the freedom to choose, even if that choice broke them both. "I need to talk to them," she said finally, "my pack, before I decide anything." "Of course. And I need you to not push, not try to convince me. Just let me think." "I will." He stepped back, putting more distance between them. "Take all the time you need, Mira. I'll be here when you're ready, if you're ever ready." The uncertainty in those last words nearly undid her. But she nodded, turned away, and tried not to feel like she was running again. The clearing smelled of damp earth and smoke. Mira stood at the edge of the rogue camp, watching the familiar bustle of morning routines. Children laughing, elders tending the fire, the makeshift family she'd found when everything else had fallen apart. They'd listened in silence when she told them about Cale's offer. Now they were deciding. She should have felt relief, should have been grateful for the sanctuary, the land, the protection, everything she'd wanted for them. Instead, she felt like she was standing on the edge of a cliff. "You're not coming with us, are you?" Mira turned to find Sarah watching her, the woman who'd found her bleeding in the woods 3 years ago, who'd taught her to fight and survive and trust again. "I don't know," Mira said quietly. "Yes, you do." Sarah moved closer. Her expression was gentle. "You've known since he took that blade for you." Mira's chest tightened. "It's not that simple, isn't it?" "I was suffocating in that palace," Mira said. "Every day felt like losing pieces of myself. Like I had to be someone I wasn't just to fit into his world. And now? Now I'm terrified it'll happen again." The words came out raw. "That I'll go back and fall into the same patterns. That I'll disappear all over again." Sarah studied her for a long moment. "You're not the same person who ran 3 years ago." "No," Mira agreed. "But what if that doesn't matter? What if the palace changes me back? Then you leave again." Sarah's voice was matter-of-fact. "But this time you won't be running from assassins. You'll be making a choice." Mira looked away. He offered you sanctuary, land, protection. You don't need me anymore. That's not why you stayed with us. Sarah's tone turned sharp. And we both know it. No, Mira had stayed because they'd given her purpose. Family. A place where she could be herself without apology. But that place had been built on hiding, on believing she had no other choice. He's giving you freedom, Sarah continued quietly. Real freedom. Not just running away, the kind where you get to decide what your life looks like. What if I decide wrong? Then you decide again. Sarah touched her shoulder. That's what freedom means, Mira. You get to keep choosing. The words settled in her chest like stones. She'd spent 3 years learning to survive, to be strong on her own terms, to protect herself when no one else would. But she'd never learned to let someone in without losing herself. Never learned to trust that love didn't mean surrender. I'm scared, Mira admitted, of going back, of staying, of everything. Good, Sarah said. Fear means it matters. Across the camp, Mira caught sight of the children playing, of the families packing their few belongings, ready to start over somewhere safe. Because Cale had listened, had honored what mattered to her, had given her people everything without demanding anything in return. He's changed, Sarah said quietly. Or maybe he's just finally showing you who he really is. Mira thought of the way he'd looked at her in the tent, like she was the only thing holding him together. Like losing her again would break something that couldn't be fixed. But he'd stepped back anyway, had given her space even when it clearly tore him apart. He could have forced me to stay, Mira said. Could have used his authority, his bond rights. But he didn't. No, her voice went soft. He didn't. She'd been so focused on who he'd been before, on the council's betrayal and his failure to see it, on all the ways the palace had trapped her. She hadn't let herself see who he was trying to become, or who she'd become in the 3 years since. The woman who'd run from the palace wouldn't have survived the rogue life, wouldn't have found strength in community, wouldn't have learned to fight back. But the woman she was now, maybe that woman could stand beside an alpha king without disappearing. Maybe she could reshape what being his mate meant, if she was brave enough to try. I need to talk to him, Mira said suddenly. Sarah smiled. I know, but I don't. I'm not ready to decide everything yet. Then tell him that. Sarah squeezed her shoulder. Tell him you need to figure out what being his mate looks like for you. Not what the council expects, not what tradition demands, what you need. Mira's throat went tight. What if he can't give me that? What if he can? The question hung in the air between them. Across the clearing, one of the children laughed. High and bright and free. Mira thought of Cale's face when he'd promised her time, when he'd offered sanctuary to her family without conditions, when he'd said he'd give them a kingdom if it meant she felt safe. He'd already proven he would put her first. Now she had to decide if she was brave enough to let him. We leave at dawn, Sarah said gently. Whether you're with us or not, you'll always have family here. Mira nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. She'd spent 3 years running. Maybe it was time to stop. Maybe it was time to choose. Mira found Cale standing at the edge of the camp just after moonrise. He wasn't wearing his crown or formal uniform, just simple traveling clothes and boots that had seen real use. His hands were loose at his sides, but his shoulders carried tension like a wound spring. He turned when he heard her approach. His eyes caught the firelight, gold flickering in dark green. Mira! Just her name. But it held so much. She stopped a few feet away, close enough to see the exhaustion carved into his face, far enough that she could still run if she needed to. She didn't think she needed to anymore. You gave them everything, she said quietly. Land, titles, protection under royal decree. You didn't have to do that. Yes? His voice was rough. I did. Why? He took a breath, let it out slow, like he was choosing each word with care. Because they kept you alive when I couldn't. His jaw worked. Because they became your family when mine tried to kill you. Because you love them, and that means I owe them more than land or titles could ever repay. Her chest went tight. Kale, I'm not asking you to choose between us. He stepped closer. Just one step. Testing. I would never ask you to give them up. Whatever you decide about us, about the bond, they have a place in my kingdom. That doesn't change. She could see the truth of it in his face, in the way his hands stayed open, in the careful distance he maintained even though every line of his body said he wanted to close it. He'd given her family sanctuary not as leverage, not as bargaining chip. He'd done it because it mattered to her, because protecting them was the only way he knew to show her what she meant to him. Sarah thinks I should give you a chance, Mira said. Something flickered in his eyes. Hope and fear tangled together. What do you think? She wrapped her arms around herself, not defensively, just holding on. I think I've spent 3 years being afraid. Her voice came out softer than she intended. Afraid you'd find me. Afraid of what the bond meant. Afraid of losing myself again. He stayed very still, barely breathing. But watching you these past days... She shook her head. You could have taken everything by force. Your authority, your bond rights. The council would have supported you. But you didn't. I couldn't. His hands curled into fists. I couldn't do that to you. Not after. I know. And she did. Could see the truth of it written in every careful choice he'd made. That's what scares me most. His brow furrowed, confusion bleeding through the control. That you might actually mean it, she whispered. That you'd really give me the choice. The power. That I could trust you and you wouldn't. Her throat closed. Wouldn't what? Wouldn't turn back into the king who didn't see me? The words broke free. Who let his counsel matter more than his mate? Who was so focused on duty and crown that he didn't notice when they planned to kill me? The pain that crossed his face was raw, unguarded. I will carry that failure for the rest of my life. His voice went rough. Every day I didn't see, every moment I chose wrong. I can't undo it, Mira, but I swear on everything I am. I see you now. She felt the bond hum, low and steady, like a heartbeat matching hers. The woman who survived alone in rogue territory. His eyes held hers, fierce and tender at once. Who built a family from nothing, who learned to fight, who stands here now facing down an alpha king and doesn't flinch. His breath caught. I see exactly who you became, and I am in awe of you. The words landed like touch, like warmth spreading through her chest. I don't want to go back to who I was, she said. That woman, she would have disappeared in the palace, let herself be shaped by expectations and tradition. Then don't. He took another step, close enough now that she could feel his heat. Help me build something new. Not the kingdom I inherited, the one we create together. Her hands trembled. I don't know how to do that. Neither do I, a ghost of a smile. But I'd rather figure it out with you than rule alone for another day. She looked up at him, at the careful hope in his eyes, at the way he held himself back even now, waiting for her permission. 3 years ago she'd run because she had no other choice. But standing here now, she had every choice. She could walk away, could return to the rogues and the life she'd built. Or she could be brave enough to trust him, to believe that the bond didn't have to mean losing herself, that maybe, together, they could reshape what being mates meant. I felt you, she whispered, even when I was hiding, even when I tried to bury the bond. I felt you searching. His breath hitched. Every day, I'm still scared. I know. But I don't want to run anymore. Hope flared in his eyes, bright and desperate and careful all at once. What do you want? His voice barely sound. Mira reached out, let her fingertips brush his. The contact sent warmth racing up her arm. The bond sang. "I want to try," she said, "to see who we could be. Together." The space between them hummed with possibility. Kale's fingers curled gently around hers, not pulling, just holding. "I searched everywhere," he said, voice low and rough. "Every lead, every rumor, every God's forsaken corner of the territory." Mira's throat tightened. "I heard the patrol sometimes got close enough to scent them." She swallowed hard. "Close enough to scent you." His grip tightened, just slightly. "You knew I was looking." "I knew." The admission hurt. "But I thought you were hunting me, that you'd believed whatever story they told you about my death and decided I was the traitor instead." Pain flickered across his face. "The story was an ambush. Raiders. They brought back your cloak, soaked in blood." His voice cracked. "I burned it myself. Couldn't stand to see it." She hadn't known that part, hadn't let herself imagine his grief. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Don't." He shook his head sharply. "Don't apologize for surviving." The bond thrummed between them, steady and insistent, like it had been waiting 3 years for this moment. "I felt you searching," she said again. Needed him to understand, late at night when the bond pulled strongest. "I'd wake up and know you were out there, looking." Her voice went soft. "It almost broke me, wanting to go to you and knowing I couldn't." "Mira, I used to dream about it." The words spilled out. "That you'd find me, that somehow you'd know the truth and everything would." She trailed off. "But it was just a dream." "It wasn't." His free hand lifted, hesitated. "May I?" She nodded, couldn't quite catch her breath. His palm cupped her face, warm and careful. His thumb traced the scar along her cheekbone, the one she'd gotten her first month with the rogues. "I never stopped," he said, "even when my council told me to move on, to take another mate for the kingdom's sake." His eyes held hers, fierce and steady. "I couldn't. The bond wouldn't let me. You wouldn't let me." Her heart hammered. "Kale, I knew you were alive." His voice dropped to barely a whisper. "Somewhere deep down, I knew. Couldn't explain it, couldn't prove it, but I felt you out there." The confession hit her like a wave. 3 years of running, of hiding, of telling herself he'd forgotten her, and he'd known. "I thought about coming back," she admitted, "so many times. Especially the first year." Her voice shook. "But I was terrified. Thought if I showed up you'd think I'd faked my death to join the rogues. That I'd betrayed you." "Never." The word came out fierce. "I would have known. The bond would have told me." "Would it?" She searched his face. "We barely had time to feel it before I ran. 3 months of being mated, and most of that was official duties. Ceremonies. We hardly knew each other." His jaw tightened. "I know. And that's on me." He took a breath. "I let the crown dictate everything. Let tradition tell us how to be mates, instead of just being." "We were both young," she said softly. "Both trying to do what we thought was right. And it nearly cost me you." His thumb brushed her cheek again. "I won't make that mistake twice." The bond pulled. Stronger now, like it could feel them finally reaching for each other. Mira's hand lifted, settled against his chest. She could feel his heartbeat, fast and hard beneath her palm. "I'm still scared," she whispered. "I know, but I meant what I said. I want to try." Something shifted in his expression, hope and hunger and careful restraint all at once. "Can I kiss you?" His voice came out rough, almost desperate. Please. Her breath caught. 3 years of distance, of imagining this moment and telling herself it would never come. Yes. He moved slowly, like she might bolt. His hand slid from her cheek to cradle the back of her neck. Gentle but sure. She tilted her face up, heart racing. The first brush of his lips was feather soft, hesitant, like he was afraid she'd vanish if he pressed too hard. But the bond flared bright between them. Recognition and relief and rightness. Mira's fingers curled into his shirt, pulled him closer. The kiss deepened, still careful, still tender, but with an edge of hunger that made her knees weak. His free arm wrapped around her waist, steadied her, held her against him like he'd never let go. She could taste salt, realized distantly that she was crying. He pulled back just enough to rest his forehead against hers, both of them breathing hard. 3 years, he murmured. 3 years I've wanted. I know. Her voice shook. I know. They stood there, wrapped around each other, the bond singing between them like it had finally found its home. We'll figure it out, Cale said softly. Together, however long it takes. Mira closed her eyes, let herself lean into him, let herself trust. Together, she echoed. And for the first time in 3 years, she believed it might actually be possible. The council arrived 2 days later. Mira heard the horses before she saw them, the thunder of hooves that made her chest tighten with old fear. She stood near the edge of camp, watched the banners approach through the trees. Cale's hand found hers, squeezed once. Stay close, he said quietly. Please. She nodded, didn't let go. The riders swept into the clearing. 6 of them, all in formal armor despite the journey. Lord Corwin led them, the silver-haired wolf who'd sat at Cale's right hand for years, the same wolf who'd ordered her death. Mira's breath caught. Her fingers went cold in Cale's grip. He felt her freeze, stepped slightly in front of her without letting go of her hand. Corwin dismounted. His gaze swept the camp, lingered on Mira with something dark and calculating. Your Majesty, he bowed, just deep enough to be proper. We received word of the raid's success. The rogues have been dealt with, Cale said. His voice held that flat command tone she remembered from before. Those who surrendered are being processed, and those who chose to fight are no longer a threat. Corwin's eyes flicked to Mira again. I see you've recovered something else as well. The air went sharp. Dangerous. Cale's hand tightened on hers. You will address her as Lady Mira. Or you will address no one. A ripple of shock went through the other council members. One of them, a younger wolf Mira didn't recognize, actually took a step back. Corwin's expression didn't change. Of course, forgive me. He inclined his head toward Mira. Lady Mira, we all believe you lost. It's surprising to see you alive. I'm sure it is, she said quietly. His eyes narrowed. Just a fraction. Cale shifted, put himself fully between them. The council's presence wasn't requested. Why are you here? To ensure the crown's justice is upheld. Corwin's voice stayed smooth. Reasonable. The rogue threat has plagued our borders for 3 years. The people will want to see consequences. They will. Public consequences. Your Majesty. Corwin glanced past Cale toward Mira. Starting with the traitors who chose to side with our enemies. Mira's heart kicked hard against her ribs. She'd known this was coming, had known it the moment she saw Cale again. But hearing it said out loud. There are no traitors here, Cale said. His voice dropped, went dangerously soft. Only survivors. The law is clear. Corwin spread his hands. Anyone who gives aid to rogues, anyone who takes shelter among them, they forfeit the crown's protection. The law, Cale said slowly, serves the people, not the other way around. The people need order, stability. Corwin's gaze flicked to Mira again. They need to know that even a king's mate answers to the same justice as anyone else. The other council members shifted. Uncomfortable, but silent. Mira felt the trap close around them. If Cale protected her, he'd be choosing his mate over his duty, over the stability Corwin kept invoking like a weapon. The council would fracture. The people would question his judgment. Everything he'd built would crack. She pulled her hand free from his, took a step forward. "Then hold me accountable," she said clearly. "I chose to leave. I chose to live among rogues. If that's treason, then execute me for it." Cale's hand shot out, caught her wrist. "Mira, it's the only way." She met his eyes, saw the desperate protest there. "You know it is." "No." His voice came out raw. "Absolutely not." "Your Majesty." Corwin's tone turned almost gentle, almost pitying. "She's right. The law must be upheld. Even for her." "The law," Cale said softly, "was written by wolves who never had to lose everything." He released Mira's wrist, turned to face the council fully. His whole body changed, went still and focused in a way that made the air hum. Alpha presence rolled off him in waves. Every wolf in the clearing felt it. Mira saw them tense, saw Corwin's jaw tighten. "You want to talk about law?" Cale's voice cut like iron. "Then let's talk about conspiracy. About council members who ordered the death of their queen to break an inconvenient bond." Corwin went very still. "Careful, Your Majesty." "About wolves who thought they could control a grieving king by removing the one thing that might have made him merciful." Cale took a step forward. "About traitors who've worn their loyalty like a mask for 3 years while undermining everything I tried to build." The other council members exchanged glances. Confusion and alarm spreading. "You have no proof," Corwin said quietly. "I have Mira." Cale's hand found hers again, pulled her to his side. "I have her testimony, her truth, and I have 3 years of watching you push me toward harsher laws, crueler justice, like you were trying to make me into something I'm not. You were weak. I was healing." Cale's voice dropped, went deadly soft. "And you saw an opportunity." Silence fell hard. Corwin's hand drifted toward his sword, stopped when Cale's beta stepped forward, hand already on his own weapon. "Stand down," Cale ordered. "All of you." Mira's heart hammered. She could feel the bond blazing between them. Cale's absolute certainty bleeding through. He wasn't backing down. He was choosing her. Even if it cost him everything. 6 months had changed everything. Mira stood at the edge of the new settlement, watching the sun climb over wooden roofs that hadn't existed half a year ago. Her people. Rogues who'd become family. Now citizens with land and protection. The building had taken time. Trust had taken longer. But Cale had kept every promise. She felt him approach before his hand settled at her waist. Warm and sure. The bond hummed between them. No longer a chain, but a comfort. "You're up early," he murmured against her hair. "Couldn't sleep. Bad dreams." "No." She leaned into him. "Good ones. I'm still getting used to those." His chest rumbled with quiet laughter. The sound still surprised her sometimes. How much lighter he'd become. How much they'd both healed. Below them, the settlement was waking. Smoke rising from breakfast fires. Children running between houses. Lara stood in a doorway, waving when she spotted them. Mira waved back. The Northern Pack sent another petition, Cale said quietly, asking for similar agreements. "You gonna grant them?" "If they meet the terms. No raids, no violence. Integration instead of isolation." His fingers traced small circles at her hip. "It's working here. Could work elsewhere." "You sound surprised." "I am." He turned her gently to face him. "You were right. About so much of it. The rogues weren't the problem. The laws were. The fear was." Mira touched his jaw, felt the slight scruff there. He'd stopped shaving so carefully, stopped holding himself like a blade. "We were both right," she said. And both wrong. That's why it works. His eyes softened. That blue she'd once thought cold, now familiar as home. The council's fully replaced now, he said. Every wolf who stood with Corwin, gone. Do you regret it? No. No hesitation. They would have torn us apart. Kept pushing until there was nothing left worth ruling. And the new ones? Better, younger, actually interested in building something instead of just maintaining power. He paused. Ren asked if you'd sit in on the next session. Mira's breath caught. As what? As my partner, my queen, my mate. Kale's hand came up to cradle her face. As the wolf who knows these people better than anyone, who can speak for them when I can't. I'm not good at politics. You're good at truth. That's better. She wanted to argue. Part of her still flinched at the idea of sitting in council chambers, of being that visible again, but she'd promised to try, to build this new life alongside him instead of running. Okay, she said softly, I'll come. His smile broke like dawn, rare and brilliant, and entirely for her. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I'm going to argue with you. I'm counting on it. He kissed her then, slow and deep, the kind of kiss that still made her knees weak, that reminded her why she'd risked everything to come back. When they broke apart, she was breathless. Show off, she murmured. Always. Below, someone called out a greeting. Kale lifted a hand in response, easy and unguarded in a way that would have been impossible 6 months ago. Mira watched him, memorized the moment. Do you miss it? She asked quietly. The way things were before? Before you? Before everything fell apart. Kale was quiet for a long moment. His hand found hers, threaded their fingers together. I miss the simplicity, he admitted. The certainty. Knowing exactly what I was supposed to be. He squeezed her hand. But I don't miss who I was becoming. That wolf was hollow, brutal, someone I didn't recognize. And now? Now I'm learning how to lead without losing myself, how to be strong without being cruel. He turned to look at her fully. You taught me that. You and your stubborn refusal to let me off easy. She smiled despite the emotion welling up. Someone had to keep you honest. Keep doing it, please. Forever? If you'll have me that long? The word hung between them. Forever. The kind of promise wolves made once. Meant for always. Mira thought of everything that had brought them here. The pain and betrayal. The running and hiding. The moment she'd seen him again and felt her whole world tilt. She thought of his choice. Standing before his council and choosing her even when it meant risking everything. She thought of these 6 months, the slow rebuilding, learning to trust again, learning to let him in. It hadn't been easy, still wasn't. But it was real. Forever, she agreed quietly. But we'd do it together, as equals. Always. Kale pulled her close, rested his forehead against hers in the gesture that had become theirs. No more secrets. No more running, just us, building something better. Together, she whispered. Together. The sun cleared the tree line, spilled gold across the settlement. Across them. Mira closed her eyes, felt the warmth on her face, felt Kale's arms around her and the bond steady between them. She was home. Not in a place. Not in a title. In him. In this. In the life they were choosing every single day. She opened her eyes, met his gaze, and saw her own peace reflected back. If you loved Kale and Mira's journey, please like and subscribe for more stories of healing, hope, and the kind of love worth fighting for.